Hi guys, welcome back to another adventure with Hank. So today we are at Big Island Rendezvous in Albert Lea, Minnesota. Today's very special because today's my birthday. So anyway, we're going to show you a few things around Big Island Rendezvous. We ready to go? Hank, we ready to go?
I think so.
He's got a pirate hat on. He's a pirate today. Pirate Hank.
Arr.
Arr. Alright. Our setup. Let's get that. So this is our awning, and we have a camp kitchen. Up here we got camp kitchen, and this is where I cook, and this is my blacksmithing shop, so you guys can see. Gotta do some repair on the forge. Burnt out the turry on it last night. And then there's our tent. We use it's a pyramid, 14 by 14, and then an awning over here. So we have a store. All this is store space. Did you there?
Some child.
Nice. Oh yeah. Oh, there we go.
All right.
This is Trader's Row. Trader's Row.
All right.
We just keep going down this way, can't we?
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning, Weasel. Morning, Kev. How are you this morning? Firing up the forge. Got a lot of sparklies in it. Ooh-wee. Look at all the sparklies. It's like the 4th of July and the 2nd of October. Alright, it's getting better now.
Everyone needs metal. In fact, you can't even have meat without metal. We make the knives to cut it up.
Yeah, I was
So,
fascinated.
being an apprentice was a good thing. Some of the first jobs that you would do as an apprentice would be to bring me water for my quench bucket, coal for my forge here, and pump this handle for me. You'd be known as my bellows monkey. You want a banana? I like the smile. Thank you. Now, those jobs that my apprentice would do for me, they help me so I don't have to do them and waste my strength, but they also help you, because you need a lot of muscle to be able to do any of this. It's not the easiest job out there. Now, these are not historically correct, are they? Guess what? I like being able to see. When I'm doing what I do, I've got hot coals and sparks flying at my face at times. It's not fun getting those in your eye. Fortunately, I go through a minimum of 9 of these a year. These ones are about a week old and they're already getting pretty scratched up. So, safety first. I'm going to grab a couple things so I can do a bit of a project for you guys. Everything from this view during school days to this view. So, still working on getting everything set up. Tongs are... I'm gonna wait on this project because it's a little bit heavier. I'm gonna take this square little piece of metal, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make an S-hook like those up there. Takes me, if I'm not talking, about 5 minutes to do one or less. Nice 20-minute demonstration. I can talk about history if I want to. So every time I pump this handle, I'm turning a belt down here, which turns a fan down here in this housing unit. Did you ever help mom, dad, brother make cookies before? No. Well, you bake cookies at about.
Wait, yeah.
Oh, okay. You bake cookies at about 375 degrees, right? Remember how hot that oven felt? When I put enough air to this forge, I can get this to well over 2,000 degrees.
Oh, wow.
That's the temperature it takes to melt metal. In order to heat it up hot enough to move it, the temperature of the forge actually has to be higher than that melting point in order to heat it all the way through. So I'm going to go ahead and get going. First heat of the day always takes just a little bit longer than all the others. The more air, the hotter it's been cold. So right now it's not very hot, all things considered for me. So it should take a few minutes to get it well, actually it's pretty good. I'm looking for a nice orange color. When it's got that color, it's about the hardness of, say, clay. In fact, I use clay to figure out how to do certain things. So I'm taking this square piece of metal and I'm going to draw it out into a point. I don't want to keep pounding on it when it loses all its color because then it's too cold and I could actually pound little cracks and breaks into it. Come on. Now when I say too cold, we're still looking at what, 500 degrees? Okay. So now that I drew it out into a point, I'm going to round it off and then I'm going to put a little pigtail on. Now, I could put the pigtail on right now. You can come over and get a good view if you'd like. Probably the warmest spot is right there. Nice little pigtail. Boink, boink. So because that tip is a much thinner piece of metal than the rest, it's going to hit that melting point much sooner. And I want to get it hot right above that. So I'm going to have to put it in my quench bucket. It's just plain old water. Helps cool it off just enough so I don't melt my tip. Because then I have to do it all over again. Now while that's heating up, I have to set up for the next stage. Now this is my anvil. The face is where I do all the shaping and drawing out of the anvil. My horn, I can do different size circles and bends, and I've got my hardy and my pritcher hole. This is a bending jig. We like very simple names. Made it special just for my S-hooks so that they're all fairly uniform in size, so the same kind of circle. So get that set up. This should be about right. Gonna cool that off and get it hot just a little bit higher up so I can get a really good bend in it. See that stuff coming off? It's called slag. They're impurities that I pound and bend out of the metal. Every time I make one of these, it gets a little bit out of shape. So we just whack it a couple times and it's nice and pretty again. The slag that's coming out, since they're impurities, the more of those I get rid of, the stronger the metal's going to be. I always have to brush them off the anvil because I don't want to pound them back into the metal. It'll cause it to be a little weaker, possibly crack and break. Now, to do the next stage of this, I need to grab this with my bare hands and turn it around. But I'm going to use my quench bucket first. You actually got you there for a second. Now, in theory, this is cold enough that I can touch it. Don't do it. Theory only works 99% of the time. You grab it without testing it first, it's going to make it really hard to hold your tongs. You test it on the back of your hand. If you burn that, it's still going to hurt really bad, but you can keep working. Only takes one time of forgetting that before you never forget again. Now, do you guys think women were actually female, or there were actually female blacksmiths in history? Why not?
I think women's job was having babies and cooking and stuff like that.
Now, it's not like we had someone traveling from homestead to homestead and town to town looking for those women that were doing, the more traditionally masculine things and going, "You're not being womanly enough, get back in the kitchen." We didn't have that. What we had was practicality. We had to do things that our history books don't actually talk about. Our history books only show us a really narrow, select view of history. If we had a really accurate history book, it would be the size of a pretty large library and take multiple lifetimes to actually study. One of the reasons for female blacksmiths, and there are a lot of them in history, is because of war. First person to get drafted in every war was a blacksmith and all of his apprentices. Well, if all the men are gone to yet another war, and there's a lot, the only people left at home are the women, children, and elderly. So the women closest to the blacksmith would be the ones to take it over. The mothers, daughters, sisters, and wives. Reason being, when you're around something your entire life, you know how to do it. The rest is just practice. Another reason is, say a gentleman had a bunch of daughters and they lived way out in the middle of nowhere where it took weeks to get to town. They got a lot of work. They got to shoe all those horses, do all the repairs on guns, knives, everything. He teaches daughters because he needed that help. That is actually more of the reason why I learned. I'm only child. My dad's a blacksmith. I'm 5th generation. They couldn't keep me out of the shop, so my dad started training me to blacksmith when I was 8 years old. Idea was to be able to keep me safe since I wouldn't leave him alone. Now, since he didn't have sons, that was very historically accurate. He trained me in a very historically accurate apprenticeship. Now, so everything I did to the one side, I will do to the other. I can take questions. You might have to stop them. This is not the slightest job. Now, for those who came after I started this one and missed a couple things, forgive me, I will repeat things. What I'm making is called an S-hook. I have some hanging up there. And every time I'm pumping this handle, it turns a belt down here and turns a fan under here to blow air through the center of my fire. The reason being is with enough air, I can get these holes to over 2,000 degrees with no problem. When I'm done with this S-hook, I'm actually going to hand it out to you guys so you can see it up close.
What would someone pay for something like that?
I sell these for $5 a piece. I like doing these as a demonstration because in a 20-minute school group, I can start it, finish it, and hand it out to the kids so they can actually see it with their hands, which makes a much bigger impression than just listening to a boring speech. I don't like boring speeches. I like being able to see things with my hands, so I did it the way I do. I'm going to put my little pigtail on it. Was literally just a small scrap of metal. I figured it was probably big enough to do a little bitty S-hook, so that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to cool that tail off so I don't melt it. Now there's one drawback to using these tongs. When I first started, because there's a groove and it's nice square metal, it's real easy to get in there and hold it real steady. Now I'm kind of holding it on the flat side so it's a little bit slippery, so sometimes it gets a little wayward. Tries to run away with me. Stick it in there and get set up to do that last bend. Once I'm done with that second bend, then we get to the fun part, the twist. Kids have no idea what I'm saying. So, should be getting pretty close. A little bit hotter. The hotter it is, the easier it is for me to move. When it's a nice orange heat, it's about the hardness of clay. In fact, I use clay to practice on different things like animal tricks. Less hazardous for the health of my hands and burning if I practice first and understand how to hit it and where to move things if I use clay. It's actually how I've been teaching my kids to do it.
Yeah, it's good now. I just went over there and went to the bathroom.
Now out here it's a lot harder to actually see the true color of metal because I've got a lot of sunlight shining in on it. So it probably looks a little black sometimes when I'm doing this. It's not, it's still pretty hot and about orange, but because of all this light, it makes it more tricky. I found out a long time ago, and I've been doing this more than 20 years with my dad, but I found out I can still tell how hot a piece of metal is by the sound. It has a completely different ring when it's hot enough to work versus, yeah, that just hit too cold and you need to start heating it back up. So a lot of times out here, I'm actually listening for a ring. Don't do that at home because I have a nice traditional blacksmith shop. It's low lit, so I can actually see the metal, and I wear hearing protection because most blacksmiths I know are deaf, right?
Correct.
They all have hearing aids at this point, so they go a lot. I don't want to be like that. So let me get this heated up. Now in order to do my twist, I gotta pull out my favorite little toy. Isn't it cute? This is my vise. It's gonna hold the metal for me so I can use two hands to put that twist in the hook. Sits right down in there. I can loosen it and tighten it as I see fit. So I want to try to get the heat as evenly as possible because the colder it is, the harder it's going to be to turn. And the hotter it is, it'll turn much tighter. So if I get it even, it'll be a nice twist. Otherwise, it might be a little off. So we'll do our best. I can actually see through a crack in the coals, so I have a better idea of how hot that metal is turning right now. That should work. Because this is a really little piece of, or a little S hook, it's going to be more interesting to do it. It's kind of satisfying watching that happen. So it got a little bit crooked, but you just clamp it right back in the vise and straighten it out. Maybe. This thing's so small. Alright. So all those impurities and a little bit of coal, that slag, they're still kind of stuck to the metal. It's easier to take it off now while it's hot. They don't stick as bad as they do when it's cold. So I'm going to clean it up before I cool it off. And then I'll hand it out.
Hey, Steven, what's your... right there?
Oh, we have a kitchen. And
That's on the back of the hand in case it is still too hot.
they all came from
And out. Because I know I can handle a much higher temperature than most people. Make sure it's absolutely stone cold before
we have
I hand it
behind
out.
the stove for all the utensils. They all came from there.
You want to pass it around? If you like, I can hand out one of these. There's actually a difference between these two. Here, just because it'd be funny, I'm going to hand out the biggest one I've got. So the difference between those is when you touch that particular one, it's going to feel more squeaky and it's going to be a little darker in color. The reason being is the bigger one has wax on it. Metal has pores just like your skin. Now, you know, your skin gets dirty, dirt in those pores, you get pimples. You'll discover this in a couple more years. And when metal gets water in the pores, that's what creates rust. So I heat the metal up just hot enough to melt wax over it, seal up those pores. You can also use paint, it works too. So I don't know if you'll get a chance to look at both of them at the same time, but it's kind of different. Now, blacksmiths did anything and everything to do with metal. We also made jewelry, but sometimes we do real fun things too. Where are my heads? Do you want to go see something else? All right, let's go.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's go over here.
We do animal heads. And apparently spiders liked this one overnight because it was fine yesterday. So, do all sorts of crazy things. If you can imagine it, you can do it in metal. Metal does what you tell it to do. You just got to figure out how to convince it to do it. So I practice different animal heads with clay first, because the first time I tried to do one without having practiced in a forge, that was a nice little burn. Ouch. Get a lot of burns in this job. If you like, you can hand it around. For children, don't whack each other. Don't drop it on each other's feet, and don't poke each other. It is solid.
You're on the fire.
I know. I gotta cover all my bases because I have kids and I know what they're like. Actually, my 13-year-old son, he's 6th generation blacksmith. I've been teaching him since he was 10. He made his first knife this year.
Sweet.
Awesome. And my 9-year-old daughter, she decided last week that she wants to heat up her first piece of metal next week at our next event. So, 6th generation's going strong at the moment. They're my apprentices, and I make them work for it. They have to learn all the different safety things.
Yeah.
But downside is no matter how safe you are, it still is going to hurt. You're going to get burns. I had a really large pole jump out and hit me right in the throat a couple months ago. Still have a nice little burn scar right there. And when I do that, I've got a bunch that hasn't even been burned yet, so we're going to be a little smoky for a second. I will try to get through that part as fast as I can so we can actually get to the fun part. Now, these are not historically accurate, but I like being able to see, so I wear them. At times, I have hot ash and sparks flying in my face, so that's not fun for the eyes. Oh, no. So I'm going to do as fast as I can to get worst of the sulfur. See, a little bit less smoke.
But there's fire.
Oh yeah.
That's okay.
Yep. I keep the fire in this. This is my forge. So it's, and you're over there behind my ropes, so you are at a safe distance.
I'm bigger.
You are.
So safe.
Then you can at least see over it, right? Or under it. But I want to keep you safe because this gets really, really hot. Did you ever help your mom make cookies before?
Yeah.
Do you remember how hot that oven was? About 370 to 75 degrees. But when I am doing this, every time I pump this handle, it's turning a belt, which turns a fan down here and blows air through the center of my fire. The more air you add to fire, the hotter and bigger it's going to get. So I can get this to over 2,000 degrees with no problem. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. At least I'm warm. I smell a little sulfuric, but that's okay. So, what I'm going to do, because I was asked to do a set of 5, is I'm going to do one of these. These aren't actually finished because they came and went, hey, add another one. But what this is it's going to be a pole hook. Now, the last part for this, actually I have a mark here, is I have to bend it so this whole thing goes this way. Reason being, for these ridge poles here, my friend wanted to be able to hang clothes and lanterns. So when it's done, it will hang from the ridge pole and not move. So now that I got to do 5, I cut the same size material that I did before, and I'm going to stick it in this forge and I'm going to get going. Now, how old are you, young lady? 10? Perfect. You are just the right age to come work for me. You'd be my apprentice. You start an apprenticeship for a tradesman, like a blacksmith, between the ages of 10 and 12. You come work for me for the next 7 years of your life.
Does that mean that I don't have to deal with it?
How old are you?
15.
You're never too old to be an apprentice.
Sounds like you got the job.
I've had, I'm okay with that.
I still get away. I still get away.
I've trained people in their 50s and 60s before.
Really?
Yep. People there are people that really want to learn this and they've never had the opportunity to, and they find out that I actually train people and they're like, yay. It's really funny if they've never met me in person, because I'm not what you'd think a blacksmith looks like, right? I'm little and I'm a girl. Most blacksmiths are the big burly guys, right? Like him. He looks more like a blacksmith than me. It's my brother. He's kind of my helper for this event, but I'm actually the blacksmith. It's kind of interesting. But back to the apprenticeships. Some of the first job an apprentice would do is to bring me water from my quench bucket, coal for my forge, and pump this handle for me so I can keep my fire hot and doing the things I do. Now we got a name for the person handling this. I call my bellows monkey. You want a banana?
No.
Aw, you don't want to be a monkey?
You are one.
That's what I call my kids too.
What monkey?
All right, in order to start doing this hook, I gotta move a couple things. So, right now I'm looking for a color change in the metal. As metal gets hot, it goes from dark red, dark orange, yellow, and then white. White means it is splatting on the ground because it's melted.
Some of it's turning white.
Oh, you can't see the metal right now.
metal, right?
It's not even getting
the
hot yet because
Some
I'm
of the
not
coal
actually
is
putting
white,
those oxygen
not
to
the
it.
metal.
Yep.
Out on the side there. We had about 80 kids sign up, 16 and under. So I have some 4-month-old child in there as well. So I didn't put a lower limit. Okay, you want to pick one? Pick one card. One. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Okay. There you go. There's your winner. Thank everybody for participating in the raffle. We're trying to forward on. It's a wonderful hobby of ours. Whether it be reenactment, rendezvous, whatever. So the stipulations were that the tent was not sold, and if you don't use it anymore, pass it on to another child. Okay, thank you very much.
Paul! Look at the crowd of people. Look at the line here. Wow. Everybody wants their turkey drumsticks.